Good morning.
What's up, Brandy? How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It is a beautiful day here in Boston. Great start to the week. How are you?
You make it back in your thunderstorm last Monday?
I did. I missed it. It was like chasing me the whole time, and I just got rain at the end. So I made
Beautiful.
it
Just in time. Just in time.
just in time.
Get wild this weekend? No more Scots in town. So is it just boring in Boston?
I know, boring in Boston. I have visited a friend of mine in Duxbury, which is like a town like 45 minutes south of here. So just very quaint. More more oysters. Really, really going hard on the oysters. It was like
I'm
a
jealous.
beautiful day in Boston in the city yesterday. Everybody was out and about. So low key, but very nice. How about you?
I'm jealous. I need some good oysters. Although down here you can't eat them in the summer, or you
Yeah,
shouldn't.
we have the
So
best oysters up
you
here.
do you. You do you. Let's see. We went to the circus on
Oh,
Saturday.
wow. How's
So
that?
little man lasted less than 5 minutes, but the older one loved it. Uh,
Okay.
Totally out of the
What was
blue.
his favorite act?
He liked the unicycle on the tightrope. He
Yeah,
was very
classic.
impressed with that, and rightfully so. But the motorcycles in the cage was pretty crazy, especially when a lady's standing there in the middle. But
Yeah. I know, that's so fun. I haven't been to a circus or Cirque du Soleil or any like I've never been to Cirque du Soleil, but all that stuff is always really impressive.
I've been to like 3 or 4 Cirque du Soleils, and they are very incredible. The local town circus with the traveling circus
Mhm.
was great for kids for the first time. So
Yeah, definitely
not
different
not on the
levels.
same level as Cirque du Soleil. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the professionals, and we were playing in the minors, but still an entertaining show and just very hot.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any World Cup stories this week, but did you watch any of the games?
I did not. I'm embarrassed to say
Really?
I
I
watched
was
none this weekend.
I was locked in. I also am like so far down the Reddit rabbit hole of the conspiracy that like they're just throwing all the games for Argentina. And then when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, everybody loves a conspiracy theory. And then I was watching these games and I was like, it definitely looks like that.
Yeah, the American guy getting a red card for something that Messi did intentionally, when the American guy did unintentionally and very obviously. Uh,
Yeah. The Egypt,
yeah, I
I,
mean, you have to assume refs know who the organization wants to win. And just that bias alone is probably enough. But
I mean, FIFA's so hilariously corrupt. I was like, ironically, there's probably some money getting deposited into a Swiss bank account tonight after the Switzerland Argentina game. But it's so fun. I thought the Norway game, like just Norway and Switzerland even being in that position against like these bigger teams, I thought was so cool to watch. And it's just a lot of fun. I've noticed so many more people getting into it, like that never were into soccer before. So it's very, very, very fun.
and then they'll forget about it for 3.5
Yep.
years and then remember how much fun it was back in the day. So
Exactly. Exactly. Well, before we jump into our topics today, got to give a shout out to our sponsor, StayFi. StayFi helps short-term rental operators build direct guest relationships through branded Wi-Fi portals, email marketing, and guest data tools that turn one-time bookers into repeat guests. Start growing your direct booking revenue today at stayfi.com/goodmorninghospitality or find that link in the show notes. So our first story today is about booking, kind of following in Expedia's shoes and really jumping in with both feet into the B2B units. They have B2B partnerships already, but they've been a little bit fragmented. The three main brands, Priceline, Agoda, and Booking, have their own kind of partnerships team. And now they're consolidating everything in under one to really leverage the power behind Booking and compete with Expedia, which, as we've talked about over the last year, has really been crushing it in the B2B game.
well, crushing so much so that they're up 25% year over
Yeah.
year. And this
Yeah.
is a travel company. Like
Yeah.
those numbers
Compared
are
to
pretty unheard.
8% with their regular revenue. So
Yeah, the consumer line of business for Expedia is up 8%, and the B2B line is up 25%. And I think this is it makes total sense why Booking would want to copy that. Booking has had a B2B arm, but it's been fragmented. They've got some major partners. I've used it before through City Travel with credit card points, but they have Air France, Southwest, American,
Emirates.
Apple. But to dedicate a line of business, I think is very smart. And again, you see the two traditional OTAs moving more in this direction. I do think the LLM challenges are right around the corner for them, and they know it. And so being able to lean into the B2B side and get their inventory seen in as many different avenues is super, super smart. And we'll get into Airbnb a little bit later on the show. But again, it's obvious Airbnb has not done something. They have not made a move in this space, and they're leaning more heavily into brands than they are in B2B. But Expedia has just completely dominated this space so far. And like you said, 25% year over year is a monster number for anything in the travel space.
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the reasons that they had kept the brands separate is that, each brand has their own, market and identity. But if you think about when you go to book using points, your credit card or airline, whatever, you'll see like that this is powered by whoever, but you're not like, oh, because Expedia is powering this, I'm not going to buy it, or vice versa. Yeah. So it's not going to matter, in Asia, if that's someone would normally use Agoda, if they go to use their airline miles and it's Booking, they're not going to care or really notice. Like, it's so I think it makes a lot of sense to combine them and leverage the power of all those partnerships they already have.
Yeah, I mean, the more eyeballs, the better. And these guys are the powerhouses at spending ads. The amount of ads that Booking has spent just on Google is estimated. They don't disclose exactly what it is, but it's estimated between $4 and $5 billion a year. Expedia, less than half of that, closer to $2 billion. And then Airbnb, less than half of that, closer to the $400 or $500 million mark. So the reliance on the traditional Google route, I do think those numbers will start to tick down, and they'll lean more and more into the B2B partnerships. Yeah. And it's been working wonderfly for Expedia. Why not copy? You may as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I know. And it's interesting. I think when there's always a lot of conversations on an operator side, especially with some people who have very, maybe more traditional views on different OTAs, like, oh, we don't do, I mean, there's still people who don't really like to be on Airbnb. But then you're like, look at the eyeballs that Expedia and Booking are getting. Like there's zero way for you to get that kind of access without being on those platforms. And so, if when you're trying to diversify, when you need more revenue streams, it's like, this is like another reason, if you're a distribution manager and you're going up against someone, this is another thing to show like why this is important to start building those connections out.
No, absolutely. It makes absolute and complete sense. Good job, Booking. Way to piece it together here. And you were already doing it on a good path and had some good strategic partnerships here. Just very interested to see if and when the third major OTA that Airbnb will pan out in this direction.
If they'll pan out. Well, before it kind of segues nicely into our next topic, but before we jump into Airbnb, want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, Built. They're helping restaurants and hotel F&B teams better understand their guests and create more personalized experiences that drive repeat visits. If you care about loyalty and guest experience, which I know you all do, it's worth checking out. Head to joinbuilt.com/GMH, and you can find that link in the show notes. So our next topic, and it's the main topic, is that Airbnb has hired a creative executive from OpenAI, but this pre-show kind of evolved into more of a conversation about, what are we guessing that Airbnb's strategy around AI is going to be in the next few years, and hiring an executive from another major tech company. The article talks about, this is a creative decision, but really there's only so many people in this world that know how to run these companies. So it's not totally surprising that you see people switching back and forth between all these companies.
Of course not. What is surprising is Airbnb has been very, very protective on their creative side for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So to bring in an executive on the creative side is an interesting move, especially coming from the OpenAI world. And it's public that Brian is good friends with Sam Altman, or at least strong, close business acquaintances with him. I don't know if I agree with the route that Airbnb is taking, in that they're going to build their own better experience and do it completely outside of the LLMs. And again, for context, Expedia and Booking have apps built into ChatGPT. Airbnb chose not to do that. So they think that they can build a better experience on the travel side. And honestly, they probably can, but then you're not embedded deeply into where people are searching. So then you have to rely that much more on brand to win, which they've done a fantastic job over the years. But I think the brand is starting to get a little muddy from just homes to now hotels and experiences and services. So, you ask anybody about Airbnb and they're going to just think vacation homes, which is great. They've done an excellent job of branding. But if you think people are going to go to Airbnb looking for a hotel, they've got many billions of dollars to spend to kind of land that home with travelers.
Yeah, and I think it's starting to look maybe a little bit like a case of someone who has the lead and then just kind of assumes that is permanent. And, right now, you have a lot of travelers and even many, many hosts that are very committed and secure within the Airbnb ecosystem. But to assume that is a forever state is, I don't think, the smartest strategy. And that would make me a little nervous if you're like, oh, we can just assume that this thing that we've built, which is incredible, is just always going to be our saving grace.
And is it good for hosts? I mean, I don't think so. Like, you want your property in front of as many eyes as possible. And we talked to top of the show on how Booking has moved into the B2B and how successful it's been for Expedia. They also have ChatGPT apps, and so they're trying to get their inventory as many places as possible. They're also sponsors of things like World Cups and the Olympics and the Super Bowl and the national championship football games. They're doing all the same advertising, but they're also then digitally getting their footprint more broadly. So I'm not going to lie, I'm a little concerned with some of Airbnb's directions on this. That said, the people in the room over there are probably way smarter than me and have a plan to figure this out. It's just not perfectly obvious to myself at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that. We're trying to make sense of their decisions. These are some of like the smartest people in the world that are, well, and especially as it relates to this technology. So it's like I'm assuming that that they have thought of, like, we're not coming up with new thoughts. They have definitely thought about these things. But, Airbnb has made headlines before about in AI when they purchased, the name of the company is escaping me. I had it just before the show, but when they bought the AI company, and then not much happened with that. So that was years ago now at this point. So it's like, when are we going to see like actual movement forward in this department?
Yeah, they paid, off the top of my head, $200 million.
Yeah, or something in the twos
for an AI company, and they've rolled out some cool stuff through the platform, but it's not substantially different than what Vrbo has also done. Happy to be wrong if someone tells me that it's a completely different experience, but I'm excited to see how Airbnb's app is so much better than routing through a GPT or a Gemini.
Yeah. And, we were talking pre-show about rates of adoption, and I'm a little bit more skeptical that people en masse are going to be planning all of their trips. Like maybe people in our social circles are, but then you were saying that your dad is now like, there's these anecdotal stories of people who I wouldn't think would be using ChatGPT or Claude or whatever to plan their trips, and now they are. So maybe I shouldn't be quite as skeptical of people really leaning into this kind of trip planning.
Yeah, I think on the bell curve of adoption, I don't sit in that early cohort traditionally.
Yeah.
I'm probably more on the rise to the top, at least with the adoption of AI. But I have shifted almost 100% of my searches over the past 6 months to GPT or Gemini, and done away with the traditional Google search. And you're referencing a chat we had before we went live. My dad is almost 70 years old, not very tech adoptive or savvy. And he totally surprised me. He's got a trip planned this fall to Europe. And he's like, oh, I went on ChatGPT. It really helped me like figure out where to go and how long it's going to take me and my itineraries. And I was like, wow, that is 2 years ahead of schedule than I was predicting. Right. So
and does he use the Airbnb app? You know what I mean? Like, did he just skip that whole using the OTA's own app and just went right to trip planning in ChatGPT? Because that's pretty crazy.
He's the demographic that's a Vrbo guy.
Yep.
He booked his Vrbo in Rome, and that's where he's going to be based, and figuring out day trips, chatting with ChatGPT. So it's been a wild transformation here. So I think the adoption of this is a lot more compressed than the adoption of the internet. We saw that take a decade.
Yeah.
And then even then another decade for all the apps to be built on top of it. But people are building wrappers left and right on top of GPT. And then GPT releases a new model that's even better and even better. And you can see the increases of these like so substantially. And I bring that up because it's going to be tough for Airbnb to keep up with how good the LLMs are.
Yeah, they have all their might focused on improving Claude or GPT or whatever it is. And then Airbnb, that's a segment of their bigger company. And all the talent, I mean, is at those other companies, right? Not saying that there aren't talented people working at Airbnb, but OpenAI is paying top dollar for the best people. So, it's a really interesting move. I mean, we'll see what this new creative executive comes in and does, and maybe we'll start to see their impact.
Yeah. And I wish Jamie were here because he would fact check me, but I'm going to finger to the wind this. Roughly 80%, 70-80% of properties on Airbnb are exclusive to Airbnb. They're just on the platform. Is that directionally right, Brandy?
That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds. It's look at us when Jamie's not here. We're just spouting numbers left and right.
It's a huge number, but what I think those hosts need to really start to consider is diversifying, because you aren't going to be seen and shown like some of the other platforms are in the LLMs. And I don't expect the long tail to go build an LLM or agentic friendly website for a single property. I bet that time will come, but we are probably a ways off from that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to be exclusive to Airbnb, you need to know where they're going to be distributing your properties. I would much rather my single property be able to be found on American Express's travel site and Citi's travel site and Chase's travel site, and on Delta, you book a flight and then you get prompted to go book a vacation rental. I think that the more the individual host learns about where the properties are, they're gonna have to learn how to diversify.
Well, unfortunately, that's probably going to come in the form of an expensive reality check. Like there's going to come a point in the next couple of years where we see maybe this redistribution of market share amongst the OTAs. And if you've really anchored into Airbnb, we started to see that in the last couple of years post-COVID, when people were like, oh, we're not making 2021 numbers. It's like, yeah, there's a reality to just being in that one ecosystem.
Yeah. And if you're in the right market with the right property and the right number of reviews, Airbnb's been fantastic for you for a long time. And you haven't really needed the pain or the struggle of being on multi-channels.
Yeah.
But that said, it's not that hard to be on multi-channels, and it's also only going to save you in the future. So if you're listening, I know our audience is more on the professionally managed side, but if you're a long tail individual host only on Airbnb, look long and hard at the distribution channels, because even though they can probably still drive you a substantial amount of traffic, it's going to be good to diversify.
Yeah, build that base now, Well, our last article today I thought was so interesting, and this is about the great wealth transfer. And I think a lot of us have heard about this topic, especially I feel like in the last couple of months, I've seen so many articles running around about this. But basically, as the aging generation ages out, they are going to leave at a huge amount of money. And this article that came from Visa is saying that there's a little bit of a reality check coming to this. And, going through, it's not this, it's not like there's just like trillions and trillions of dollars that's just directly going to people, right? There's taxes. They talk about paying off debts, things of that nature. And there's been a lot of talk, at least in my LinkedIn feed, that this is going to be like the biggest thing to the travel industry, but there is a little bit of a reality check to that. So a lot of this money is going already to a subset of people that have a lot of money. And that's not surprising. That's, if you were to think about who has all these investments, who's helping buy their kids' homes, it's already affluent people. They're going to spend money on vacations, but there isn't going to be this distribution across all of the, like the budget motel isn't going to benefit as much as the luxury hotel, I think, in this scenario.
No, 100%. And the numbers that Visa distills down, it's like $93 trillion of assets is held by the boomers. And once you take away taxes, charitable contributions, mortgages, other debts, it whittles down pretty quickly to 36 trillion. Now, that's still an insanely massive amount of money. But then you distill that down even further, and they estimate about 3.2% of that is going to go into the travel space. But 3.2% of that, again, massive amount of money. It's estimated to be somewhere in the $800 billion over a span of something like 10 years. So that's a lot of net new money that's going to be dedicated to travel on top of what's already in travel. And I think the K-shape that we're seeing in the luxury side is only going to be exacerbated. The other interesting piece that the Visa study doesn't share, and I'd be curious to know, a lot of homes, second homes, are owned by the boomer generation. Mm-hmm. When they pass, our generation, millennials and younger, don't love being tied down to going to the same place every year for vacation, or the same place 4 or 5 times a year. So are all these homes going to be sold, which ultimately drives down the price of everything, of owning the home, and then drives down the price of staying in the home. So it could be a great benefit to the affordability of travel for that middle section of the space.
Sorry, go ahead.
Unless our generation decides to hold on to those assets.
Yeah, I was thinking about this a little bit differently, in that, like, if you had a family place that you will go to all the time and you don't want to go there, then you might put that property into a property management program with an operator. And then you're like, okay, we get our like 1 or 2 weeks a year, and then we're still getting all this income. We don't have to, maybe that house is paid off or close to paid off. I think it kind of maybe depends on the house and the market that they're in. If they're in a market that's a good vacation rental market, this might be a benefit to property managers, where now you have people that are like, actually, I would just rather get my occasional use and have an income stream that is predictable, more or less.
I don't know. I mean, the flip side of that is tools and technology have made it to where, and then also all of our algorithms say like you can make millions of dollars being a Airbnb host, right?
Yeah.
So
They do that for 1 or 2 years, almost get divorced,
exactly.
put it into a program.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah, there is a cycle there. I can do this on my own. It's fine. And then you're dealing with calls at 2 a.m. on every single Friday from neighbors that are upset. But I do maybe call it optimism, but I'm optimistic that prices can potentially come down. I don't think they're coming down anytime soon. But as the great transfer of wealth kicks in, whenever that kicks in, I guess over the next 20 years, I do see compression in pricing starting to happen.
Yeah. Well, I think an interesting part of this is that the inheritance isn't happening all at once, right? We were talking about, parents helping kids buy homes, and kids like they're our age, like fully grown adults.
You're not that young anymore, Brandy. Sorry.
I know. Oh, so, but it's like instead of getting your inheritance 25 years from now when your parents pass, like they're like, hey, we'll help buy this house. Or one of these things I thought was really funny is the skip generation vacation, where the grandparents take the kids on nice vacations and you as the parent don't get to come.
Yeah, that's wild.
I'm like, wait.
Don't ever remember doing that growing up.
No, I never
didn't
got
do that.
No, definitely didn't do that. But I think that also speaks to these different, like the boomer generation is just such an interesting generation, like in history. There's so much money concentrated there right now. So it's really, for many years, there's all this talk about like how millennials, like our spending habits, and now Gen Z, poor Gen X, just like not included in anything. But now I think it's really like the spending power right now is with all the boomers. Like, what are you doing with all this cash? And a lot of, instead of keeping it till the very end, it seems that there is at least a subsection that are helping, pass it down earlier.
Yep. Well, I guess the travel is always cyclical, but as long as you're positioned well, the next 20 years look to be pretty solid for travel. That's the TLDR of the article.
Yeah. Which is great. I feel like there's been, understandably a lot of anxiety in the last like year and a half about the state of travel. And so it's nice to see some positive news about what's coming our way.
Awesome. Well, you got a big week coming up.
Yeah, actually I'm about to, on Thursday, I'm converting my home base from Boston to the Adirondacks for a month. So I'll be flying from work trips from Albany, but I'm going to be basing myself in Central Adirondacks for about a month.
I was about to say, you might have forgotten about the retreat we're doing in Sarasota next week.
No, I have a flight booked.
All right. Good. Well, I look forward to seeing you then. We will be doing a pre-recorded episode this coming Monday because Brandy and I will be down in Sarasota for a little bit of a retreat along with 20-something other people. Should be a good time, but we'll learn a lot and have, I'm sure, tons to talk about on the backside of it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's definitely interesting people. I can't wait to see what nuggets come out of there.
Mike Nord has the best comment here. As a Gen Xer, we were thoroughly entertained by the rest of y'all.
Yeah, that's good. You could just sit back with your popcorn and relax.
Sandwiched in between and just laughing at us all. So
yeah,
thanks, Mike.
Exactly. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in, Mike and Paul, as always. And for everybody listening on the downloads, thank you for listening later. And we will see you all next week.